Hello and welcome to today's session where we will focus specifically on powering the feedback cycle with Turnitin Feedback Studio for our middle school and high school instructors. My name is Jessica Riley and I'm a solutions consultant here at Turnitin. A little bit about me. I've worked in ed tech and education consulting for nearly 8 years. Prior to that, I was a classroom teacher, certified reading specialist with a background in responsive classroom. I'm very excited to be here with you all today, talking about one of my absolute favorite topics, feedback. Before I jump into the agenda, I do have a few housekeeping items. We will save time to answer questions and for additional Q&A, and keep in mind that this recording will be shared out and made available to you. On to our agenda. We will begin by discussing some research and theory behind the significance of providing students with feedback. We'll discuss real-world scenarios that I'm sure you can relate to, as well as challenges faced by teachers. I will show you how to utilize Feedback Studio functionality to address these challenges. And finally, we will end the session with resources, support, and as I mentioned, that extra time for Q&A. Let's go ahead and get started. When thinking about feedback, there are a few essential questions to consider. Mainly, why does feedback in the classroom really matter? What are the most important components of feedback? And how can I utilize resources such as Feedback Studio to optimize the limited amount of time I have to assess and provide feedback to effectively power the feedback cycle and teach my students? Let's break these questions down a little bit further. As you can see, there's a great quote up here on the slide. It says, "The single most powerful influence on enhancing achievement is feedback," from Dr. John Hattie. According to Dr. John Hattie and Greg Yates, feedback in the classroom can be defined as information allowing a learner to reduce the gap between what is evident currently and what could or should be the case. Research such as Hattie's visible learning has shown us that students are more engaged and learn more effectively when they receive consistent feedback from teachers. His research shows that providing feedback has a positive effect on student learning. In fact, even students readily admit that receiving specific, timely, relevant feedback makes them more likely to revise and helps them to think critically about how to improve and grow. It can be said that without feedback of any kind, students would be destined to make the same mistakes over and over again, unable to apply understanding to new tasks. As teachers then, one of our primary roles is to provide opportunities for feedback, preferably in a variety of forms. A few years ago, Turnitin surveyed 1,155 students to learn how they think about and use feedback and what makes it truly effective and important to them. The results are shown here on the slide. According to students, feedback is most effective when it's connected to assignment goals, when instructors provide suggestions and examples, when feedback is specific and prioritized, when teachers use clear and concise language to convey their feedback, and when feedback is provided as timely as possible. Additional survey results found that students consider instructor feedback to be just as important to their learning as studying, doing homework, and listening to instructor lessons. Students expect to receive feedback that will help them get good grades, know how to avoid mistakes in the future, and understand what counts as high quality work. Over 60% of those surveys find feedback very or extremely helpful if it points out in their work what was done correctly and if it is aligned to the assignment criteria. 60% of those students said they are very or extremely likely to use their feedback if they receive it in the midst of working on their task or immediately after they have completed their task. Their likelihood to use feedback drops significantly if they receive it any later. Overall, the largest portion of students believe that receiving as many detailed comments as possible is the most effective feedback they can receive. Let's now talk about some real world scenarios and how we can utilize Turnitin Feedback Studio to meet some of our challenge and to ultimately provide effective feedback to our students. The first scenario or use case we're going to talk about is connecting feedback to our goals. Our study found that students face barriers when utilizing feedback when the feedback is too general and when it's not tied specifically to assignment goals. Here's our use case. I want students to see that their feedback is tied to specific learning objectives and goals. Of course, we all can relate to this. We all want our students to feel this way. How can we use Feedback Studio to accomplish this goal? Well, when leaving QuickMarks and bubble comments, you can use the assign criterion function to tie feedback directly to the rubric criteria. You can also highlight text and tie your comments to the highlighted text for additional specificity. Here we have a screenshot that depicts what I'm about to show you when we get into the system. We see in pink, there's highlighted text, and then our comment has been opened up on the right. At the top, we have the ability to assign criterion from our rubric. Here's the different criteria of the rubric listed right there in a row. So if this particular comment has to do with the claim or supporting the claim, providing evidence, or the organization of the paragraph, or it has to do with language and style, you can easily select that criteria from the dropdown and tie it directly to it right there. I'm going to jump into the system so that we can take a further look. Now we see the paper that has been submitted to our assignment. This is our student's paper. Over here at the top, I'm going to open up the feedback. Right here, I can see there are a number of comments that have already been left on this paper. I see QuickMark comments that have been added, bubble comments that have been added. I see inline text, strike-throughs, as well as highlighted text. As I mentioned earlier, once you leave your comment, you can open up any of these comments if you want to, and you can assign criterion from the rubric. This particular comment has to do with addressing the counterclaim. If I click up here, I see all the different categories of my rubric, and I can simply click on Claim and Focus. When I come over to the rubric, I can now see that one of my comments has been directly tied to this criteria of my rubric. This comment here has to do with formal language. I highlighted the text this time, added my QuickMark, pulled it over to the side of the page so I could get this connector line. This is another way to be really specific when it comes to leaving feedback. We're telling our students, this particular comment has to do with this individually highlighted sentence right here. Again, you can click up here at the top where it says assign criterion. Right now I've already chosen my criterion, select it from the dropdown. This has to do with formal language, so I'm tying it to my language and style criteria right here. And then once again, when I open up this rubric, I can see where my comments have been associated or tied. It's one way to leave specific feedback. When it comes to your QuickMarks, I highly suggest that you take a look at all the different sets you have access to. We provide you with a number of sets already embedded within your account. A number of our sets are broken down by grade level and by genre. We have sets for commonly used QuickMarks. We have IB QuickMarks. We even have QuickMarks that use sports lingo. QuickMarks are a great way to save time. And again, once you add them to the paper, assign criterion from the rubric, highlight the text to show students how specific this feedback really is. When it comes to your rubrics, there are two places to create the rubrics, or to take a look at the list of rubrics you have access to. You will want to create your rubrics in the Libraries tab. Here we can see that we already have a rubric tied to or embedded within this assignment. So we wouldn't necessarily want to change our rubric at this point. We've already pulled it up to assess this paper. what you'll be doing is creating rubrics within the Libraries tab. We have lots of videos and resources and all sorts of quick guides and overviews to show you exactly how to do that. If you're interested in any of those materials or any additional materials as we go today, please let us know. What I will show you is when I click on the rubrics, I can open up my rubric form manager. This is where you'll see all of the rubrics that you have access to. We provide you with common core rubrics. You can use them. You can edit these rubrics if you want to. You can also create your very own rubrics. You have the ability to create standard rubrics, custom rubrics, qualitative rubrics. You can also create grading forms if you prefer to take that route. We have rubrics you can upload from our resources section within the system. You can upload QuickMarks as well, which I'll show you at the end, but you can upload rubrics. So if you're in search of a good rubric, you can find a rubric within our resources section and you can add it to your own account. Again, you will select this rubric when you go to create the assignment. So this rubric or grading form will be embedded within your assignment, but keep in mind, you can tie that feedback to the different criteria of the rubric to make it, again, really specific and targeted. I hope scenario 1 was helpful. We're now going to pop back over to take a look at scenario or use case number 2. Our second scenario has to do with being as timely as possible, which we know this is one of the very important factors in providing and receiving feedback. Here's our use case. I teach multiple classes with full rosters and I don't have time for feedback. Students don't get their papers back for weeks as it is. Students really depend on timely feedback, but don't always receive it. Out of those surveyed, 28% of our respondents reported that their instructors take 13 days or longer to provide feedback on their papers. How can Turnitin Feedback Studio functionality help with this challenge? Well, you can create your very own set of QuickMarks, which will save you time. You can also convert your bubble comments into QuickMarks. This next slide here shows the QuickMark Manager and how you can create your very own set of QuickMarks. We know that time is incredibly valuable to our teachers. We know that you are not able to spend your workday when you're with your students reading and assessing and providing feedback on papers. We know you are spending this time on evenings, weekends, your time, your family time, your friend time. We understand that it can be a huge challenge. For this, we highly suggest you create your own set of QuickMarks. Share those QuickMarks out, use those QuickMarks from assignment to assignment, year to year. Once you create your sets of QuickMarks, those QuickMarks live in your account forever, and you can use and provide feedback forever on any assignment. If you find yourself writing the same bubble comment out over and over again, you've written it 3 times in a row, simply convert that bubble comment into a QuickMark. Drag and drop it into the paper instead of retyping it over and over again. Let's jump into our paper to take a look at how this can be completed. Back to our QuickMarks and back to our QuickMark Manager. This is where you can go to create your very own set of QuickMarks. Again, we have a number of resources and overviews and guides to show you exactly step-by-step how to do this. Just know you can create your very own set of rubrics, and you can create any set you would like. You have complete control over this aspect of the system. If you want to create comments around argumentative writing that have to do with claim and focus and support and conclusion and counterclaim, or if you want to create comments around narrative writing or informative writing or research papers and create comments that have to do with citations, it's all up to you. You can create any set that you want. Once again, that set is created, it's available in your account forever. We also have sets of QuickMarks within our resources section, which you'll be able to take a look at. Those can easily be imported into your own account. So if you like any of those QuickMark sets, add them to your account, and then again, pull them up to provide feedback to any of your students. When it comes to bubble comments, if you've written the same bubble comment over and over again, instead of retyping it for the 4th or 5th time, simply convert that bubble comment into a quick mark right here, and then once again, drag and drop that directly into the paper. On to use case or scenario number 4. Number 3. This scenario has to do with the fact that feedback should be clear. Here's our use case. My classes are made up of students with a wide variety of skill sets. Some need to see the same exact feedback multiple times before understanding it and putting it into action. How might your colleagues across disciplines or grade levels reinforce the feedback you give to students or vice versa? Consider how it could impact students to see the same types of comments, the same type of feedback on research papers or argumentative essays, on speeches, on debates, on lab reports. What about on presentation slides? How could it impact students to see the same type of feedback over and over again? How could it reinforce these behaviors? Well, what within Feedback Studio can help with this challenge? Create your own set of QuickMarks, as I showed you just a second ago. But not only can you create your own set, you can also share them out across disciplines. You can share them out with the science teacher, with the social studies, with the history teacher. Anybody who wants access to this set of QuickMarks can then have access to it. They can then use the same comments to provide feedback to all of your students. You can also notify students that they can change the level of the ETS E-Rater handbook. If the feedback is too complicated for them, or if it's not making sense, they're not able to easily digest what's being said to them in terms of the errors that they made, the examples, the definitions, explanations, students have the ability to change that level of the handbook. Right here we see a screenshot of the ETS E-Rater handbook and the area in the system where students have the ability to drop this level down. Now, you as the instructor, when you create the assignment, you of course will enable the E-Rater. You'll also decide the level of the handbook that's defaulted to, but keep in mind, if it's not easy for students to understand, they have the ability to change it to make it more clear to understand it themselves. Let's go into the system so we can take a look. When it comes to sharing out QuickMarks, I'm going to go back to my QuickMark manager. Once you create your own set of QuickMarks, you can then download that set. The set will go into your downloads. You can then attach that set into an email, and you can share it out across disciplines with your teammates, with your coworkers, with anybody who wants access to those QuickMarks. Administrators in the account, you can also create QuickMarks and you can share those out with all users. So if everybody wants access to a set of QuickMarks, you have the ability to share all of that out. Again, we have lots of resources to take you through this process step by step. If you're interested, please let us know. In terms of the ETS E-Rater, students will see the highlighted text showing them their errors. They have the ability to view the handbook. This will give them a further definition, explanation of the errors that they made with lots of examples. Just like the screenshot showed, the student has the ability to change the level of the handbook. Maybe these students are English learners. They can change the level. It then changes the language used to make these explanations. This is really meant to encourage those independent revisions, make this feedback more clear, more digestible to our students. Jumping now to our next scenario. Feedback should be specific and provided in multiple forms. Here's our use case. My classes are made up of different styles of learners. How can I reach all of them with my feedback? 18% of the students that we surveyed rate voice comments as helpful, but only 2.7% actually receive this type of feedback when it comes to voice comments. That's one of the features Turnitin Feedback Studio has available to reach all of our different styles of learners. For visual learners, we have QuickMarks, we have bubble comments, inline text comments, highlighting capabilities, strike-throughs. We also have summative text you can leave. For our audio learners, we have those voice comments. Again, a very underutilized feature of the system. Surveys have showed that this is the most preferred way for students to receive feedback. They want to hear the inflection in your voice. They want to hear that positive feedback from you. Plus, it's a huge time saver for our instructors. But this is a very underutilized function within the system. I'm going to show you how to do it. And for our face-to-face learners, we can download the current view or a nice summative report to show us all sorts of information, all of the feedback that was left on the paper you can then use for your face-to-face conferences. Here we have a quick screenshot of the feedback section within the system. Of course, this is where we're going to go to leave our voice comment, and then there's our nice big long text box. You can really dive into your student's paper. On this paper, we already see our bubble comments, our QuickMarks, our inline text, our strike-throughs, our highlighted text. To access voice comments, it's the second icon right here on our blue layer. This is where you can go to record up to a 3-minute long voice comment. Again, very, very valuable feature within the system, underutilized. Take advantage of it, save time, leave that voice comment. Students love to hear the positive inflection, reinforcement in your voice. Down here below is this big long text box. You basically have an unlimited amount of characters you can use here. So there are scenarios where teachers will literally write letters to their students right here in this text box. Really dive into the student's paper. What did they do well? What do they need to work on? You basically have an unlimited amount of text you can add right here into this nice big text box. In terms of conferences and providing that face-to-face feedback, you have the ability to download a report here to help support that conversation, help support that conference. We can download what's called the current view. This will give us a nice summary report, PDF that can be printed off and again used to then support your conversations, support your face-to-face conferences that you're able to have with your students around their writing. This is where you see a nice screenshot of the paper, all of the highlighting, all of those comments that were left. You can see how those specific comments are tied in with those connector lines and that highlighting. And then you also get these nice lists of all of the comments. So all of the QuickMarks, the strike-throughs, the ETS E-Rater comments, bubble comments, any sort of feedback that you left with an additional summary of the rubric. So again, a great resource to use for our face-to-face conferences, those face-to-face learners. Print this off, have a hard copy of it, make notes in the margin. Students also, of course, have the ability to print this off so they too can have a closer look at it and really interact with it hands-on. Our next scenario has to do with providing examples. Promote peer-to-peer feedback. Here's my use case. I wish my students could see more writing examples and learn more from one another. Over 80% of our surveyed students find suggestions for improvement and specific notes to be very or extremely helpful feedback. Over 70% believe it is very or extremely helpful if feedback identifies their mistakes and uses examples. Peer-to-peer feedback is a great way to provide students with examples. They can see examples of their peers' writing. Peer mark assignments allow students to review one another's work. This is a great feature within the system, a wonderful assignment type, a great engagement tool, especially when it comes to leaving feedback, teaching our students how to leave valuable feedback for one another, teaching them what to look for specifically in their peers' writings, how to comment on it. I'll show you in a second, but you can have a lot of control over this. You can create your own questions students have to answer about one another's work. Students also have the ability to leave their own feedback with their own set of QuickMarks, inline comment capabilities, a great engagement tool, especially as you get close to the end of a semester or near the holidays. Students maybe check out a little bit. A great engagement tool to pull them back in, remind them how valuable the writing process truly is. Here's a quick screenshot of PeerMark from the student's view. Again, on the right-hand side, we have those questions. We provide you with sample questions you can use, just like we provide you with sample QuickMarks and sample rubrics. We provide you with sample questions that can be utilized for your PeerMark assignments, scale questions, free response questions. You can edit them. You can also create your very own questions if you want to. We have great resource right when you go to create the PeerMark assignment. There's a resource available at your fingertips, walk you through the entire process with screenshots. It's very easy and simple to do. To show you this from the student side, I'm going to quickly pop over to my student account and show you what it looks like when students have been assigned a PeerMark assignment. This is my PeerMark assignment. This is where I see my peers' paper. Here's all of the questions my instructor created or the sample questions that they assigned to me. Students then again have that QuickMark capability in here. They have a limited set, but these comments can be dragged and dropped right in. They also have highlighting functionality. They can leave inline, in-text comments. So a great tool to really teach students what to look for when it comes to the type of assignment, what you're focusing on, and then how to leave effective, powerful, actionable, targeted feedback for one another. Can be a great lesson along the way. Highly suggest you take a look at creating one of our PeerMark assignments. Our next scenario has to do with giving genuine praise. Here's the use case. I'm always telling my students they did a good job. How can I expand on my praise to build confidence and help my students grow? This is a common challenge faced by teachers, right? We want to give that positive feedback. We want to build confidence in our students as writers. We want them to enjoy the process. But what else can we say besides good job, nice work? Well, according to the Turnitin blog post, Going Beyond Good Job, 4 Ways to Rethink Student Feedback, which is written by our Senior Curriculum Content Manager, Patty Smith, students need feedback that identifies areas of weakness and areas of strength. If students don't have a clear, specific understanding of what they did that merited that positive comment, it is unlikely they will be able to transfer that understanding to a new task. Rather than simply saying good job, consider adding a specific and actionable comment, such as nice use of language in this sentence. Providing specific positive feedback will allow students to have a better attitude about writing in general, right? Build their confidence, understand their own strengths, and have an understanding of the skills they want to leverage to improve their writing overall. One way to do this in the system, to take a look at one of our Feedback Studio features, is to take a look at the QuickMark set's spotlighting strengths. There are 2 different sets of QuickMarks that are available to you already embedded within your account, all about targeted, actionable, specific, positive reinforcement you can quickly and easily add to your students' papers. Of course, as I showed you before, you can also create your custom positive sets of QuickMarks and feedback. Here's a quick screenshot of our spotlighting strengths QuickMark sets that are available to you. I'm gonna hop back over to my instructor side so I can show you these sets of QuickMarks and how easy they are to access. Back into my QuickMark Manager. I can find that set of QuickMarks. Actually, let me just find it here in the drop down. Oh, here we are. 2 sets of them. There's one that's called Spotlighting Strengths Advanced and Spotlighting Strengths Beginner. So depending on the level of the student, you can decide which category or set of feedback will work best for those students. You can take a look at some of these comments. Instead of just good job, saying things like effective transition, engaging dialogue, impressive language, logical progress of ideas, persuasive support, nice tie to thesis. You can see how much more specific and targeted and actionable these comments are rather than good job. Spotlighting strengths beginner. Helpful transition, impressive language, logical organization, powerful beginning, purposeful dialogue. And again, you can see a further definition of those comments below. Take a look at these 2 sets. Again, they're automatically embedded within your account. Feel free to drag and drop those right into the paper, going beyond good job or nice work, actionable, targeted, thoughtful feedback available right at your fingertips within Feedback Studio. And finally, our last scenario is around powering the feedback cycle. It's not enough to just provide our students with feedback. We need to know that they are able to digest this feedback, to understand it, to use it, and then to apply it to their future assignments and future tasks. Our use case is, how do I make sure my students understand and apply the feedback I have provided? Well, within Feedback Studio, you can create what are called revision assignments, reflection assignments. You can also have students complete self-reviews in the PeerMark module. Within PeerMark, you can provide students with specific questions to answer, or even on a reflection assignment, you can have them answer specific questions about what they learned in the writing process. To tell whether or not students have actually viewed the feedback and the grading you provided to them, you can see that under the assignment response column within your assignment inbox. Let's take a further look. When creating an additional assignment after you have one assignment in your class, this is where you're going to go to create either a PeerMark assignment, a revision assignment, or a reflection assignment. Again, we have detailed user guides and overviews which will walk you through step by step how to create each of these assignments. I just want to give you a quick overview so you know that these assignments are available to you within your account. PeerMark assignments I already discussed and showed you from the student side. Keep in mind, you can also require students to create a self-review where they're answering those questions that you're supplying to them about their own paper. Revision assignments allow you to create multiple drafts of the same assignment. So students can then submit multiple drafts without overwriting their previous drafts or submissions. Revision assignments are duplicates of the parent assignment, but with advanced optional settings, which you'll see in any of our guides. So with this type of assignment, a student would submit to the original assignment, they take a look at the feedback that you provided to them, then they would have the opportunity to apply that feedback to their second draft, which would then be uploaded into the second assignment within the revision assignment. So that's how we'll know if our students are really able to apply the feedback. Do they understand it? Was it actionable and targeted and timely enough that they're able to take it back, understand it, process it, and then apply it to their next draft or next assignment? And then the final option here in the list is the reflection assignment. So with a reflection assignment, this provides students with an opportunity to write about what they learned from the writing process, as well as offer feedback on the assignment they worked on. What did they learn specifically? So this is useful, it says right here, in classes that emphasize and teach the writing process. So students can upload a reflection. What did they learn? How are they able to take the feedback you provided to them and apply it? What did they learn throughout this writing process? Great, great ways, again, to make sure our students are actually able to apply the feedback that we are providing to them. And then the last thing I want to show you is where you can go to see whether or not students have actually physically viewed the feedback and the grading that you spent your entire Sunday providing to them. I'm jumping into one of my classes so we can take a look at our assignment inbox. This is an assignment inbox. Over here under the response column, of course, this is where we see our authors' names, our students' names, titles of their papers, those similarity reports that I know you've already heard about on different webinars, the grade column. This response column is where we can go to see whether or not the students have actually viewed the feedback and the grading that we provided to them. These little dots here tell us that the students have not yet viewed the feedback. It even says the student has not yet viewed. But this little person down here with the check mark shows us that this student has in fact viewed the feedback and the grading we provided to them. It even gives us a date and timestamp of when that feedback was viewed. Now, some instructors will use this. They'll wait to see that the student actually has this little person icon under the response column before they'll provide a grade on the paper. They just want to know that the student has actually opened up the feedback, taken a look at that feedback before they actually get the grade. So if the students are asking you, when am I going to get a grade on this paper? When is this going to be graded? You can tell them, you know what, I'm waiting to make sure that you've actually viewed the feedback that I provided to you first. And this is how you'll see it with this little person icon right here under our response column. To finish up here with our key takeaways, the process of teaching students how to write is centered around feedback, specific, actionable feedback that can guide student understanding of how their writing was received and interpreted. Feedback is essential to writing instruction. In order to provide more effective and engaging feedback, it's important to understand how well students comprehend and act upon the feedback we have already delivered. Takeaways: feedback is incredibly important in the process of teaching and learning. Feedback should be made a priority. Students truly value teacher feedback, which we saw in all of our surveys. And Turnitin Feedback Studio can greatly save time and provide different methods for providing feedback. In fact, our rubrics result in a 31% reduction in time spent grading. Our feedback options provide a 52% improvement in the quality of feedback, and all of that functionality results in 46% increase in students actually viewing their graded paper and instructor feedback. And that may just be because they know that you know if they've actually viewed that feedback. These are our different resources that you have access to. You have the ability, as I mentioned earlier, to download your own set of QuickMarks. We provide them in our resources section. I provided a quick link here in the PowerPoint slide. You can see we have all sorts of different sets of QuickMarks. Here we have even Halloween QuickMarks, so if you want to feel fun and festive, you can take a look at our Halloween QuickMarks. Clicking on any of these sets will show you the QuickMarks or the comments that live within this set, and then, of course, the further definition or explanation of this comment. This one's pretty cute. You can easily download these and then upload them straight into your own account under that QuickMark Manager. A number of different sets broken down by grade levels, by genres. We have game day QuickMark sets, social studies QuickMark sets, a whole bunch of different options for you to peruse, take a look at, see if there's anything in here you're interested in uploading into your own account, and then keep in mind you'll have those QuickMarks in your account as long as you want until you go in and delete that set out. Same thing goes for the rubrics. So under our resources section, Turnitin.com, you can go in there, search for rubrics, and see all sorts of rubrics that you can upload into your own account. You can, of course, duplicate and edit those. We have tons of resources to show you step-by-step instructions on how to complete that process. I've also included a number of white papers around feedback. You can download these papers if you're interested. So closing the gap, what students say about instructor feedback. This is an interesting study and survey that we did. You can take a look at that one. Types of feedback that help students the most. Take a look at this paper. You can register to read the original white paper right down there at the bottom. Instructor feedback, student perceptions. You can download this one. It gives a little summary of the study that we did. Infographic, there's a webcast. So all sorts of really valuable resources available at your fingertips. And then finally, I've linked the Turnitin blog here, where you can go to search any new blog posts you are interested in reading more about. And here we go. We can see all of the latest posts. So you can come in here and you can check out any of these blog posts. There's pages and pages of them if you're interested in learning more about Turnitin, about feedback, about all sorts of functionality. Lots and lots of blog posts available right here for you. I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today. We will now be ready to take any live questions. So any questions that were entered into the chat or any questions that anybody would like to ask, we'll now be prepared to take those questions. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Oh, I think we have some questions in here. Will we send the PowerPoint version of this presentation along with the recording? Yes, we will. How did we get the connector line for the feedback? Okay. Let's go ahead in here and I'll share my screen in just a second and show you exactly how to do that. Okay, so if you want to leave those comments with the connector lines, what you're going to do is you're going to highlight the text. So you just simply click on it, highlight the text. Your little black toolbar will appear. So from this point, you can either leave a quick mark or a bubble comment. So let's say I want to leave a quick mark. I simply choose the quick mark. It will open up. You can also color code your comments, which is really valuable. So you'll see the color highlight here. You can click on the box in the top corner and you can actually change the color of the highlight if you want to. Then to get that connector line, you just sort of click off of the comment and pull it to the side of the paper and you'll get those connector lines right there. And you can move them around. It's super flexible. You can do the same thing with your bubble comment. So if you want to highlight the text, that little black toolbar will pop up again. Instead of clicking on quick mark, you click on the bubble comment, write whatever you want. Change the color if you'd like to. Click off of the comment and you can pull it and you'll see these connector lines. So you can really do this with either quick marks or bubble comment. All right, other questions in here. Okay, what is an RBC file? An RBC file, that is the specific file that our rubrics are created in. So when you update the template, if you were to download that, it's going to go into a .rbc file into your downloads. At that point, you wouldn't open the rubric up, but you can simply upload it, share it out, and it can be uploaded into other accounts. So when it comes to the rubrics, either you're using the rubric that we already provide to you, you can duplicate and edit that rubric, or you can create your own with a blank template, or you can upload an Excel file. So if you have a rubric created in an Excel file, you can upload that or import it in. Okay, if you use, sorry, this other question, if you use PeerMark, do students know whose paper they are reviewing? So you will actually make that choice when you go to create the PeerMark assignment. One of the options asks if you want to make it anonymous. If you decide to make it anonymous, that's anonymous both ways for both the author and the reviewer. So you can choose to make it anonymous if that's the route you want to take. Yes. Good point. Yes. If you, this is true. So when it comes back to that PeerMark question, make it anonymous. You don't want students to view the author or the reviewer name. You will also want to make sure that the student doesn't physically type their name on the paper. So we won't show any names within the account, but you'll also want to make sure the student doesn't actually physically type their name on the paper, because then when the reviewer goes to pull up that student's paper, they of course would see all of the text on that paper. Thanks everyone so much. Hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions or if you want any further resources on the rubrics or the QuickMarks or any of the feedback functionality, you can always reach out to your sales rep or your solutions consultant and we'll be happy to provide that for you.